Imagine a foreign lobby so powerful, so entrenched in Washington that it can make or break political careers, redirect millions of your taxpaying dollars overseas, and silence almost any criticism in the media. It almost sounds like a crazy spy novel. It's the real story of AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. How did a lobbying group for a foreign country gain such influence over the world's most powerful democracy? And what does that mean for you, for your freedoms, and for America? Hey, it's Delana. Today I'm doing a deep dive into AIPAC. How does Israel get so much control over American government? We are one nation under blackmail. The Epstein files is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Israel. This is becoming so much more apparent as more people are talking about it. Mainly on platforms like X or YouTube, the mainstream media is not going anywhere near this topic, nor do any of the politicians want to talk about it. So, what exactly is AIPAC? It was founded in the 1950s, originally as a small group advocating for Israel after its creation in 1948. Today, AIPAC is one of the most powerful lobbying organizations in the US. Officially, it calls itself Pro Israel, Pro America, but critics are saying it's more ensuring US policies always align with Israel's interests, no matter what the cost to American priorities. Some are actually questioning, is it America first or is it Israel first? And I think there is, a fine line to what side that is on for sure. So, how did this all start? So, imagine you're a young Congress member and the APEC representative invites you to their conference. Thousands of people, standing ovations, promising of campaign support. If you're loyal to Israel, you're rewarded. If not, funding dries up, challenges appear, and media scrutiny follows. So, how did APEC influence government and how did it get such an influence over the government? They were very, very much involved with the politicians. And while APEC itself doesn't donate, it directs vast networks of donors. Politicians know supporting Israel means campaign survival. Both Democrats and Republicans have long backed APEC. It is one of the rare issues with bipartisan consensus in Washington. In recent years, Republicans have leaned into AIPAC more strongly as Democrats split between establishment leaders and progressive critical of Israeli policies. Presidents from Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, even Obama and Biden have all appeared at AIPAC conferences. AIPAC creates policy papers and it also drafts bills. Many bills presented in Congress regarding the Middle East are literally written by AIPAC. And I have a chart here talking about going through since the early 90s. They've had literally people at AIPAC literally write these bills and acts for Congress, and Congress just passes them through. And this all started back, I guess, 1995, the Jerusalem Embassy Act. So they put heavy pressure on Jerusalem to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and move the U.S. embassy there. This took many years. Like I said, it started in 1995, but presidents delayed and delayed enforcement for years, using waivers and anything that they could to stop it. But Donald Trump enacted it in 2017. This was one of AIPAC's longest running legislative goals. So what else did they do? There's the Iran sanctions in 1996. AIPAC has been behind nearly every single major Iran sanction law since the early 1990s. This is the 1996, the Iran Sanctions Act. It tightened restriction on Iran's oil, banking, and even their shipping. And then fast forward to 2015, AIPAC led the charge against Obama's Iran nuclear deal, pushing members of Congress to vote against it. And then we come to the anti-boycott, divestment, and sanction laws, one of AIPAC's most aggressive recent campaigns. And this has caused a little shitstorm across the US. The Israel Anti-Boycott Act, it started between 2017 2019. It was designed to criminalize or penalize Americans who supported boycotts of Israel or any Israel settlements. The ACLU and free speech advocates strongly opposed it, calling it completely unconstitutional. which it is. Dozens of state level anti-BDS laws were also modeled on AIPAC talking points. And all the states in the dark purple there are actually have anti-BDS laws, which is pretty much the whole United States. And the U.S. Israeli Security Assistance Authorization Act started in 2018. And this was a major, major defense bill backed by AIPAC's initiatives. It was codified to make sure that $38 billion over a 10-year military aid package was promised. And this was done through Obama. So it ensured Israel remains the largest recipient of foreign military aid. $38 billion. And this was this major, major defense bill. But AIPAC pushed this bill as a way to lock in, regardless. So no matter what president there is, they are locked into this military aid. So the bills, they also started bills targeting the UN and Palestinians. AIPAC has repeatedly advanced legislation to cut US funding to UN bodies viewed as critical to Israel. So that brings us to this Taylor Force Act. So the Taylor Force Act of 2018 cuts US aid to the Palestinian Authority unless it ends stipends to families of Palestinians jailed or killed by Israel's. So this actually happened back in 2016. So this guy, Taylor Force, an American military veteran named Taylor Force, who had no relation to the conflict, was murdered by a Palestinian terrorist. He was visiting Israel as a part of a Vanderbilt University study group on global entrepreneurship. The killer died during the attack. As such, the Palestinian Authority pays the terrorist family a monthly stipend that is significantly higher than the average Palestinian wage. In 2018, the United States government passed a bill halting aid to the Palestinian Authority, so long as the PA continues its pay for the slave programs. Sponsored by Republicans, many Democrats were initially reluctant to get on board. However, by 2017, more supported the act. That said, the United States continues funding the Palestinian Authority in indirect ways through other agencies. The bill is also to defund and all the sanctions under UNESCO, which is United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, and the UNRWA, which helps brings food to Palestinians. These are both Palestinian refugee agencies, so the Israelis don't want U.S. involved with any kind of Palestinian refugees or any help to Palestinian at all. So what else have they done? Well, then we have the Abraham Accords, and this happened in the early 2000s, and that this was to normalize to the to normalize like agreements throughout the Middle East, and it was really supposed to normalize between Israel and Arabic states, and this was 100% a Donald Trump initiative. Jordan Peterson had once said that he should get the Nobel Peace Prize for this because this is the one thing that is causing some kind of peace amongst the Middle East. And it was I guess his goal was to strengthen America's security in the Middle East. And then they came up with the Middle East Act in 2019. And this bundled multiple pro-Israel measures, including anti-BDS provisions, access and pressure to presidents, senators, and representatives attended AIPAC conferences almost like a loyalty oath. Skipping it could actually be political suicide. And again, back in 2015, AIPAC played a major role in organizing opposition to Obama's Iran nuclear deal. Members of Congress who supported the deal faced enormous pressure and negative ad campaigns funded by pro-Israel groups. So they really, if you disagreed with Israel, they were coming for you. So why does this matter to Americans today? Well, the U.S. gives Israel nearly $4 billion annually, even as Americans struggle with healthcare, housing, and infrastructure. So this was the Iran deal with the deal and without the deal with Iran's nuclear with Obama. That was the Obama deal. So here we come to today and the $4 billion annually that U.S. gives Israel. So why do they do this? Well, it's because of foreign policy wars. U.S. interventions in the Middle East, wars in Iraq, pressure on Iran, and military presence in Syria are all shaped heavily by pro Israel lobbying. Free speech, several states have passed laws requiring individuals and businesses to pledge no to boycott Israel in order to win government contracts. Critics all call this attack on the First Amendment. And here we go with aid to Israel. It is by far the largest recipient of aid, by almost double than any other country the US gives to Israel. So Israel there so now imagine being a school teacher in Texas, asked to sign a piece of paper promising to never to boycott Israel or lose your job. And this actually happened. This was actually the contract that she had to sign. And it says essentially, and this was a teacher in Texas, had to boycott Israel, and refusing to deal with Israel would mean that she would be automatically fired. Like when did all this stuff started? There's no other country that they would write into any kind of contract like this to say that you would be fired if you are against any other country. It's absolutely crazy. So, who exactly is AIPAC protecting? Well, primarily it protects Israel government policies, whether liberal or far right. Again, here's all the countries that are on board for this in the dark red. Those are ones that actually have this law written in their contracts in the red. It's very crazy. It shields Israel from accountability for actions against Palestinians, such as settlement expansion, military actions in Gaza, or alleged human rights violations. But here we go. This is Gaza in 2021. Um, you know, it ensures Americans vetoes almost every UN resolution critical of Israel. When Israel bombed Gaza in 2021, killing hundreds of civilians, it calls for accountability, and the US were totally drowned out. Why? Because criticizing Israel can end your political career, just as Representative Omar, who faced fierce backlash when she suggested AIPAC influences Congress, which 100% it does, hands down. Why is the US so invested in Israel? It's a strategic ally for sure. So, Israel is seen as America's foothold in the Middle East. They also have military technology and intelligence sharing. The two countries collaborate closely through many argue Israel gets more than it gives. I highly doubt that. And then you have the religious and cultural ties. Evangelical Christians support Israel due to biblical prophecy, adding another layer of domestic political pressure. There's the fear of nuclear power. Israel is the only Middle Eastern country with nuclear weapons, yet it refuses inspections under the Non Proliferation Treaty. So ask yourself, if Israel already has nuclear weapons, one of the strongest militaries in the entire world, and advanced defense systems like the Iron Dome, why do they still need our billions of dollars every single year? And this is the Iron Dome that they have that is complete protection for them. The Israeli guy that was just arrested in Las Vegas was part of this cyber team that was working on this Iron Dome. And he got off. He propositioned a young girl in Las Vegas. I just did a video on this, and he gets let off. And who lets him off? Well, I don't know, an Israeli judge in Las Vegas. It's just that as you look deeper, it just goes deeper and deeper. It's absolutely crazy. So, why does AIPAC consistently lobby against recognizing Palestinian statehood? It's absolutely crazy what's going on there. And critics argue that the US tax dollars are actually funding a military occupation that keeps millions of Palestinians under blockade and military control. And unfortunately, the kids are the ones that they're getting hurt by it the most. Any US politician advocating for Palestinian rights faces fierce pushback. Like I said, these kids in Gaza growing up under airstrikes and blockades while the jets are flying over there are funded by essentially US taxes, and your own tax dollars are going after the Palestinians. So is AIPAC, I don't think it's just about Israel. I think this is all comes down to power. It sets this precedent. If one foreign lobby can control US policy, what about all the others? And the reason that they can control the US policy is because they all of them are getting blackmailed, and they started this way back in the 1970s and 80s with Reagan. This blackmail circle of deceit has been going on for a very long time, and it was very strategic. It does raise a lot of questions about American democracy. Is it truly independent, or is it just being sold to the highest bidder? Think about the last election, like how many debates and how many candidates talked about America's collapsing healthcare system. Now ask how many pledged loyalty to Israel on that stage. That should tell you everything about where the power lies. America was founded on independence, freedom from foreign control, for sure. Yet today, the influence of AIPAC raises the question, are we really free to choose our own path? Are we serving the interests of another nation first? Israel's strong. It has nuclear weapons, advanced technology, and a thriving economy. But if America continues to put Israel priorities above its own people's needs, who's protecting Americans? Or who's really running Washington? That's a question that we really need to ask. You know, it's just when I started doing a deep dive into this APAC thing, it's just amazing, amazing to me how deep things go. Like I said, you take that simple thing of the Israeli cyber guy that works under Netanyahu is in Las Vegas. He propositions a young girl. He is arrested, goes to jail, or in front of the judge. The judge is Israeli. He's let off, and he's back in Israel the next day. And it's like, it's just some of these decisions that they're making. It's just absolutely crazy, and that's where I did a deep dive into this. It's like, where does this all come from? Where is this stemming from? And like I said, it is one nation under blackmail. This has started a long time ago, long time ago. And very much there's no other country, unless I'm mistaken, that has this much control over the US and has so much to say in what's going on in the US right now. Like I said, I did videos on um like the mega group, started back in the mega group in the 80s and the 90s, Epstein getting in on Clinton in the early 90s. He is a Mossad. You have Blackwell, you have um the Inslaw, you have the Promise software, all this stuff. Israel is so infiltrated into the US systems and surveillance systems and computer systems and the FBI. See, it's all connected. It's just one big octopus. They're just infiltrated all through the United States. And I see people on X going like, "What are you talking about? What are they? What is Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes? What are they all talking about?" Well, they're all looking deep into this, and unless you really look deep, there's no explanation as to why this is going on. But once you start looking into things like APAC and all the different controls in the blackmail, and that's why they don't want the Epstein files out, because, and like I said, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just going to give more incentive to look deeper and deeper into this, and you don't even need the Epstein files to start looking into this to see how corrupt this very is. So anyways, guys, please like, subscribe, share. I have a ton of other videos. Go back and check my other videos. It goes so deep, and there's so many different layers to this. And the only way that you get out of this is to expose it. That's 100% for sure. And it's the pedophilia, and it all comes down to the pedophilia and the blackmail, which is absolutely disgusting, is when kids are involved. The kids in Palestine, it's just when the children are involved, it becomes too much. And I saw a post by Candace Owens today, and it resonated with me, because it's like, this is about the kids, these innocent kids that are getting caught up all in this. It literally has to stop, and we won't stop and just turn a blind, because if you turn a blind eye to it, you're just advocating for it, in my opinion. So again, please like, subscribe, share, and I'll talk to you guys soon.